We're glad you've tuned in today to the Retirement Education Hour. It is always a pleasure to be back with this duo, financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Metler. Kirk and Paul, they're with the Retirement Education Foundation. Of course, this show is brought to you by the foundation in their effort to help you become more educated, more confident around the topic of retirement planning. There are so many moving parts here in the 21st century. If you're thinking about retirement, maybe you're newly retired or you want to retire one day, this show is for you. And we're going to go deep into a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And throughout the program, we're going to be telling you about how you can attend the foundation's courses on retirement planning. These are like master's level courses, and you owe it to yourself to be there. We'll tell you how to get signed up here throughout the program. Kirk and Paul, I say that this topic is near and dear to my heart, and that's because I'm a woman. And today we want to focus on women and retirement. And there's a lot to unpack here, isn't there?
Well, there is, Megan. I can tell you one of the more disappointing and frustrating things from the charity's perspective is when we're teaching these classes, right? We've taught, we're maybe close to 20,000 people in person at local colleges and universities for over a decade. Hundreds of thousands of people listening to our podcast, watching our webinar, consuming the educational content that the charity provides. And what we find, and it's disappointing, is that most of the people consuming the information are men. And most of the people who are attending our courses are the men. And that, we think, is a massive mistake for a lot of reasons, which we're going to unpack why that's a mistake. And we also know that as the demographic shift, as the baby boomers are aging, the next generation, we're going to have more women engaged in managing the finances in households. That's what the research has told us. The baby boomer generation may have been a little different from a data perspective, and we know that the next generation is going to be different, and women will be more engaged. And so we really want to do whatever we can to help. Here's what we want to do. This is a touchy show because we're really trying. Historically, the men have been listening to our shows. Historically, the men have been coming to our classes. And what ends up happening often is after they come to our classes, then they bring their spouses with them, those who are married, back through the classes. This really needs to become a two-player sport. Both, for a lot of reasons, we're going to share all the data points why it's really important both spouses need to engage at this point. But we're also trying to, maybe in some ways, guilt the men who are the do-it-yourselfers or the ones responsible for the finances in their households, that it is time to engage the spouse and almost force the spouse to engage, because they are likely going to be the surviving spouse at an older age where they're more vulnerable, and they really need to understand how to make these decisions to have the best possible retirement for a lot of reasons, Paul. And I know there's a lot of psychological reasons involved here that I know you want to share. But this is our goal. It's not an easy show for us to do is with a couple of men. Luckily, we have Megan here to help us. This is going to be a tough show, Paul.
Yeah, I as you're talking, I'm thinking about the women in my life or who've been in my life, whether it's mom, our sister, this spouse, people in my life.
Paul and I are brothers, by the way. I know we have different last names, but we are brothers. So go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and I just think, it is often, it just seems like, and the people we meet, it's often the men who are controlling the finances. And I think it's twofold. I think part of it is, as a man, I think controlling finances gives us a certain level of power. I think there is power that comes with making financial decisions, and it's not easy to let go of those purse strings, right? So I think part of this show is to the men listening, saying, you need to sort of let go a little bit. This has to be a two-player sport. And if you're not letting go, you're hurting the woman in your life. And to the women listening, we're going to talk about this, and Megan, you can jump in and help. I think it puts you vulnerable if you're not getting educated about retirement and finances, and puts you in a bad situation, which we'll talk about. So I think depending on who you're listening to, hopefully the show will speak to you.
That's why we host our 8-hour educational courses that are taught at major universities and colleges in your area. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
Kirk and Paul, again, I'm so glad we're broaching the subject today. I read recently that 70% of females, they will leave their current financial advisor after their spouse passes away. And there are many reasons for that, right? And a lot of times it's because they get ignored by the financial industry. Do you see that?
Yeah, Megan, this is a major issue. Sincerely, I could tell you. So we are speaking to you as financial instructors for a national charity, right? So I want to be clear. We are all the instructors involved in the charity have their own private practices, they're CPAs, they're attorneys. But I can tell you in our private practice, we require both spouses to be fully engaged throughout the entire process. We don't meet with one without the other. They both have to go through the education, the information, all meetings. It is crazy. Think about that. Think about 70% of surviving women's spouses are leaving their advisors after their husband, the man, passes away. So basically, she hasn't been involved in finances for years, and now at 80 years old is going to find a new advisor, and they aren't going to get taken advantage of. The data suggests these are the most vulnerable. Those women who are likely to be the surviving spouse that have not been engaged through their 50s, 60s, and 70s are the most likely to be taken advantage of. And we're going to talk about that today, Paul. We're going to talk a lot about that. So here, listen, please do yourselves a favor. This is almost like a master's level course, and we're teaching them at universities and colleges in your area. You can stream them, even if you're in a different state listening to our podcasts or hearing us on the radio or seeing us on the TV. You can stream into our classrooms at the universities live while we're teaching and interact and have questions. This 8-hour course, I don't care how educated, how much wealth you have. This is a must before you choose a team, before you decide to retire. If you're retired, you need this education. You don't even know what you don't know. And that's what the purpose of the course is, to help you have better information and knowledge. So if you'd like to register for this 8-hour course, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
And we'll be back. There's plenty more with Kirk and Paul. You're listening to the Retirement Education Hour. And we're back here on the Retirement Education Hour. So glad you're with us today. Want to remind you that you can go back and you can listen to any of the episodes that you've heard here on the airwaves. You can listen as a podcast. Simply find us wherever you find your favorite podcast. You can download it at your heart's delight. Look through the library. In fact, this very show will be there in the library. So we hope you'll do that. Search for the name of the program, which is, of course, the Retirement Education Hour. And we do have a great show for you today as we're focused primarily on women in retirement, some of the very unique challenges that we have, ladies, in retirement. And if you're listening today and you're not a woman, but boy, you've got a mom or a sister or a neighbor who you care about, we want you to be empowered to help them as well understand the importance of financial education around retirement and what's at stake if women do not start to take financial ownership of their situation. There's a lot here, and who better to talk to about that topic than financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Mettler. They're leading the way on this. This is something they feel very strongly about. Of course, both of them dads of daughters, and they feel very strongly about female empowerment in retirement. I want to make sure that you have the website and the phone number If you'd like to go even deeper on some of these topics around retirement planning, you can attend the courses that the foundation sponsors and holds at major colleges and universities, including the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi and Troy campuses. Oakland University is also included. And then you can also take a look at the University of Missouri and Columbia College. Those locations have courses as well. Or you can watch online. All the locations have live streamed courses. Go to the website right now, reserve your spot, retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. Or call 800-240-8981, 800-240-8981. Talking before the break, Kirk and Paul, this is a big statistic. 70% of women leave the advisor that they worked with their husband after their spouse dies. And there's a number of reasons for that. That'll get your attention. What's your takeaway from that?
This topic infuriates me. I want to start by that. And every class that we teach, I am infuriated by by the men who they all think they're different, but they're very similar. The people who are attending our class, consuming the information that our charity provides, are those highly educated, those professionals, those engineers, CPAs, attorneys, executives, doctors, and they all, given the greatest bull run in market history we've experienced in the last decade, they are what we call, many of them in their 50s, they're the invincibles, right? Because they're at the top of their careers, never made more money in their lives, and the market has gone wild, so they think they're good at investing, and they think they have all the answers figured out, and then they go find their advisor, and then they go meet with the advisor, and sometimes the spouse attends, the woman's spouse attends, sometimes they don't. When the women's spouse do attend, the advisors aren't even looking at the women, they're not even talking to the women, they're not engaging, they're not educating the women, and the spouse is dominating the conversation half the time trying to prove how much they know, and they really don't. I mean, I'm not picking on you guys, but you don't know as much as you think you know. And I hope I'm upsetting you right now. I'm hoping I'm upsetting you enough that you want to come to our classes and tell me I'm a jerk. And then when you get there, you realize how little you know. And the funny thing about all this, and it's not funny, I shouldn't say it's funny, but like, you're going to die first. Statistically speaking, you're most likely to die first. And so you now have a spouse that has not been engaged in the process. Your advisors haven't engaged your spouse in the process. They haven't taken any ownership of it, and then you die. 80% of all women will die single, right? Because the men die first. And now we know, the data tells us that 70% of those surviving women's spouses are going to go find a new advisor when they're 80 years old and they haven't been engaged in many decades. And by the way, and we'll talk about this in the next segment, I'll pass this to Paul really quick, but next segment, we're going to talk about all the wrong choices men are making because they're not thinking about the surviving spouse effectively. They don't have the right information, and the spouse hasn't been able to engage in the process. So I'm sorry, Paul, I get very passionate about this. We push to make sure that both spouses come to the classes and get the education. But I think for some men, it's the control, it's the power.
Yeah, I mean, Megan, you asked this a great question, and the why. Why do 70% of these women leave? I don't know the answer. I'm not a woman, but I can tell you just from interacting with couples during the class, and the stories I hear them say, and sort of observing the relationship, right? Oftentimes, and Kirk mentioned this, oftentimes it's the woman feels unheard, feels disempowered, feels like she's not taken serious. At some point, at least what they share in these meetings is they give up, and they just, the advisor that they had with their husband was more of the husband advisor, and it makes them, not feel very comfortable with him after. Kirk, one of the things that we do is oftentimes and sometimes to a fault, we require both come. We get pushback sometimes. Sometimes we get pushback by the men, sometimes actually by the women, but it's often, I think so much of it is around power and control, as you said, Kirk. So I don't know the exact reason, Megan. I think it's a really interesting point. I think statistically it's concerning. I think as a charity, we really try hard to not speak just to the man, to try to really engage the women in the class. We're not great at it, but we really try hard. But I think it's something we have to think about and get better at.
We definitely, all of us men need to get better at this. But I think generationally this is changing. I do. Megan has shared that. Maybe Megan can give her comments in the next segment how this is changing for younger generations as we go on, which is great. But I also think some of our language as men, as advisors, need to change a little bit, how we're communicating. I think that impacts it. But I can tell you, to your point, Paul, in our private practice, we say no to about 40% of the people that want our help. And one of the major reasons we say no is that both the husband and wife won't engage fully. We require it. That is part of the process because we already know what's going to happen. So we require it up front. We've helped. And that's one of the advantages the charities have. We have helped tens of thousands of people. We know what's going to happen better than you know what's going to happen throughout your 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so that's part of the education we're providing the classes, help you to prepare for those things. So if you'd like to attend one of these 8-hour courses, register at retirementplannинgedu.org. That's retirementplannинgedu.org.
And when we come back, we will talk about that generational shift and how women are thinking about their finances and their retirement. This whole topic about women in retirement, it continues here on the Retirement Education Hour. And we're back. Glad you're with us here on the Retirement Education Hour. Megan Mozak alongside financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Mettler. Kirk and Paul both with the Retirement Education Foundation. Of course, this show is brought to you by the foundation, and the foundation's mission is all around education. When it comes to retirement planning, there's a lot to know, and you can't just rely on the old rules of thumb or some of this old school thought. There's so much now that's involved in a modern retirement. And I should probably say in a modern, successful retirement. And of course, we want you to be successful. You've worked so hard. You've built up this impressive savings for retirement. Now what? Well, we want you to attend the foundation's courses on retirement planning. These are like master's level courses. They go very deep. It's very involved. We want to see you there in the classroom. And these courses are held at major colleges and universities near you, including the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi, and Troy campuses. Oakland University is also on that list. You can also attend at the University of Missouri or Columbia College. Go to the website, find out more, and most importantly, get registered now. Retirementplannинgedu.org is the website. Again, retirementplannинgedu.org, or call 800-240-8981. Women and retirement. It's a big topic, but we're tackling it today. And we've been talking about how 70% of women will leave the advisor that they worked with their husband after their husband passes away. And I was thinking about this, Kirk and Paul. If I was in a meeting, quarter after quarter with an advisor who never looked at me in those meetings, never engaged me, I'd switch advisors too, right? So many of these women, and I think we're seeing this generational shift into Gen X, who's much more empowered. They do want to take more of an active role. Maybe they're not in the driver's seat, but they sure do know what's going on. And they're demanding that advisor interact with them in these meetings. And you say that's a good thing.
Well, it's a great thing. I mean, it's a great thing for a lot of reasons. And I think we'll talk about some of the elder abuse that occurs later in life by decisions that we're making today, right? But more directly with this next generation where we find women more engaged, they're participating more, they're being heard more, they're being acknowledged more, if we're being honest, which is about time, right? But here's the thing. I mean, that's so great. It's going to avoid so many of the mistakes that those who are not having the wife engaged in this process as they're approaching retirement through early retirement, because all these decisions that the do-it-yourself men and the male advisors are making, the husband's going to pass away first, right? And so the surviving spouse gets caught with the mistakes, and the mistakes are, I mean, there's a ton of them that people are consistently making, and I think the next generation won't make as often because women will be more engaged in the process. So what are some of those mistakes, Paul? So I will tee up a few of them. You can talk about it. One is Social Security, right? Everybody is doing... Literally, it's not my words. The Social Security Administration says 92% of people make the wrong choice when it comes to Social Security. It isn't a math problem done on a calculator online. Come to the class. Social Security is so comprehensive in terms of how and when you take it. It's a tax question. It's a surviving spouse question. There's a lot of variables. We see mistakes with pensions. People doing cost-benefit analysis, they think they did the math right. Oh, the surviving spouse won't need as much money when I die. Wrong. The surviving spouse actually runs into a tax trap when the first spouse dies. They go from married filing joint to single. Massive tax ramifications. Medicare, many of you do-it-yourselfers and men that are predominantly taking care of the finances don't recognize that the surviving spouse, when R&Ds kick in, and you're taking your pensions, where your Medicare costs go. So you not only are going from a married filing joint tax status to a single tax status, and then you're going to a single status for your Medicare means testing. All traps avoidable. And I just can't help to think that women would look at the numbers differently and look at more long-term what's going to happen as they get older, knowing that they're going to be likely the surviving spouse. There's tax ramifications, estate planning ramifications. There are so many mistakes that we're watching people continuously make, and it, frankly, is continuously happening from men. The men are making the mistakes, and the consequences fall to the women, Paul. It falls to the surviving spouse.
Yeah, I'll tell you one other additional thing that may not seem intuitive. I don't know if you're going to agree with this or not, but if there's one area that I hear women in the class talk about, and of course men poo-poo it, they don't see the importance, is the fear that their husband is going to end up with dementia or Parkinson's or one of these horrible illnesses, and they're going to take care of them, and you're going to spend all their money taking care of them, and they die with nothing, right? That's one subject that women sometimes do speak up about in class, and almost all the time, the men don't think it's important because this is planning for something 20 years away, and they don't want to think about one day they're going to have Alzheimer's, so they don't plan for it. But folks, most likely what's going to happen is it happens if the husband ends up with one of these chronic illnesses and you spend all your money. If you've not planned for this and you spend all your money taking care of him and he passes away and you're going to do whatever it needs to take care of him, what about you? What happens to you?
Paul, I'm going to interrupt you because that's what I was leaning into. You nailed it, right? That is, you just nailed it, right? Because if a woman was engaged in this process in the 50s and 60s, that caregiving, long-term care and caregiving of a sick spouse is going to be at the top of, I know it, we meet them all the time in the class, it's the top of their priority list. And for men, it's usually lower on their priority list. And this isn't an accident. This is why I'm so encouraged by the next generation and more women being engaged in this process. Here's the data. 80% of women will die single, and then they are also 80% more likely to be impoverished than men. And it's because they're caregiving for the men. The men get sick, and they have to be caregiving, and they spend all the money. So How did that go into the mathematics around Social Security, around your pensions? It didn't. That's why women round out the thought process around retirement much better. They just do. That's our experience. That's why you need to attend our 8-hour courses to help you prepare for these things and find the right teams to help. What questions should I be asking my advisors to help me manage this? So if you'd like to attend, all we ask is for a $29 donation to charity. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
And we'll be back. There's plenty more on this topic with Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Mettler coming straight up. Happy you're with us here on the show today. This is the Retirement Education Hour. We talk about all things retirement planning, and today our focus is women. Women in retirement. What do you need to know? So, ladies, if you're listening, there's a lot, and we want to have you feeling empowered. We want to have you feeling like you are in the know and that you're not sitting on the outskirts of this decision and these big, big decisions that affect you going into retirement. And part of the way you can gain even more empowerment beyond listening to this show is to then also attend the courses that the Retirement Education Foundation holds at major colleges and universities. We want to see you there, ladies. We want everybody there, so you can reserve your spot right now. Simply head over to the website, retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. And keep in mind, these courses are held at major colleges and universities in your community, including the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi and Troy campuses, Oakland University, the University of Missouri, and Columbia College. And if you'd rather, you're also welcome to listen, watch from the comfort of your own home, because all of these courses are streamed live, so you can watch online as well. Either way, make sure that you register. Again, go to retirementplanningedu.org to reserve your seat, or you can call 800-240-8981. And if you missed even just a second of this show, keep in mind you can go back, listen to the whole thing. Wherever you find your favorite podcast, you can find this show and download it as a podcast. Our whole library is there. So be sure to listen, share with a friend. All right. So getting back into our topic at hand, women in retirement. I heard you say that 80% of women, they die single and oftentimes impoverished. And that is a shocking statistic, whether you're a man or a woman.
It is. And let's not pretend. So while this show is about women in retirement, we know that the majority of our audience listening on the radio shows, listening to financial education radio shows, TV shows, consuming the content on website around finance, we know it's predominantly men. It's changing. We're seeing more women engaging, which is great, but we know it's predominantly men. So we are trying to explain and talk and communicate to both men and women. But I can tell you the majority of the mistakes are driven by men with their finances that impact ultimately the women. And that is the most frustrating part. As someone who has taught tens of thousands of people, we've done hundreds of radio shows and TV shows, and hundreds of thousands of people are consuming our content. We know the numbers. It's still predominantly men, and you're predominantly making the same mistakes. And that's why we are now screaming, you have to get your spouse engaged. If you are participating women, please participate in this education. And if you're married women, force your husbands into this, force them to listen, force them to engage, because we know that 80% of you women will die single. And we also know 80% of you will die broke because of poor decisions men make. And they don't realize they're making mistakes, but this is men are less. How do I say this? I think women are better planners, and I think they have more anxiety about long-term futures than men do. Men tend to feel more invincible. I know I'm generalizing. I'm not trying to offend any particular people too much, but listen to us. You're not making the right decisions around Social Security. You're not making the right decisions around tax planning. You're not making the right decisions around long-term care, and you're definitely making the wrong decisions around your pensions. You're not thinking about the impacts of caregiving and a surviving spouse, being a woman after taking care of you. You didn't plan this out properly. And what we don't want to do, Paul, I know I don't want to do this. We don't want to scare people into not spending and enjoying their money in retirement. In fact, that's one of the things we spend a lot of time in the classes teaching you how you should be able to spend 6, 7, 8, 9% withdrawal rates in retirement. But to do this and do it without leaving your surviving spouse at risk of having nothing, you have to have proper risk mitigation and tools in place and understand the real math to these decisions. Paul?
Yeah, the one topic that men have no problem talking about, and you probably can guess this, right? That they just loved, I'm sorry, this is probably true even with us, brag about, and this is their focus is investments, right? That's oftentimes when we meet men in class, that's their focus only. How much they've made, how well they've done, how much money they've made investing. And that's, for the most part, what they focus on. And often, not always, if the spouse has not been participating, assumes it's correct, doesn't really challenge that. And the men often then go on, and that's their focus only. And I think you can speak to this. Your investments are just a very small part, right, of your retirement plan. If that's all you're focusing on, that's a massive mistake. And even when you focus on it, Kirk, most likely the focus often men have are on the wrong side of investments. They're thinking wrong when it comes to investing in retirement, and those mistakes happen as well, often because of ego, because they're more interested in just hitting the home run. Excuse me, Megan, as a man, hitting a home run versus just getting on base.
Mansplaining
there, Megan.
Right there. Listen, no, Paul, you're 100% right. Here's the deal. Seriously, Paul. This is going to upset people. I hope it upsets you so you want to come to this class and challenge us. You are not good investors. None of you. I can promise you that the index has beaten you over the last 20 years. I will guarantee you that the index has beaten you over the last 10 years. I that's just the data. And P.S., what you invest in retirement will not drive your performance. What you invest in isn't the variable in retirement that's going to drive performance. It's actually going to be where you take your income from and when is going to drive your performance in retirement and drive success. Success is driven by, in retirement, risk mitigation, maximizing income, minimizing taxes, and, oh, by the way, creating the freedom to not be afraid as you age and cognitively things get more confusing. And look, just do yourselves a favor. Come challenge us at the class. Prove us wrong. Come to one of our 8-hour courses that we teach at major universities and colleges in your areas. We do them over 2 evenings or 1 full Saturday. All we ask is you make a $29 donation to charity. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
And we'll be back. There's more with Kirk and Paul straight ahead. We're glad you're with us. This is the Retirement Education Hour. I'm here in the studio with financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Mettler. We're having a great conversation today about women in retirement. And ladies, if you're listening today, there's a lot that you can learn and become empowered around when it comes to your finances and your retirement future. And boy, some of these statistics, and I want to get back into this discussion pretty quickly when we talk about 80% of women dying single. That means widowed, divorced, alone, just single in some regard. And oftentimes that can lead to being impoverished, and no one wants that for their future. The good news is there are some things we can do to mitigate that risk, and we've been diving into that topic. I also want to make sure that you are aware, men, women, everyone listening today, you can go deeper into this topic and so many others around retirement planning when you attend the Retirement Education Foundation's courses on retirement planning. And we really describe these as master's level courses. It is a very, very in-depth conversation, and the teaching around this goes to some of the biggest concerns that retirees have. So we want to see you there in the class, and they're taught at major colleges and universities near you, including the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, both campuses, Novi and Troy, Oakland University, the University of Missouri, Columbia College. Go to the website, check out those locations and the dates, and be sure to register, reserve your spot, because the courses fill up pretty quickly. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org, or call 800-240-8981. And remember, you can go back and listen to any of these episodes that you'd like in the library that we have. Find it wherever you download your favorite podcast. You can download our shows as a podcast as well. Now, as we get back to this conversation, and we've been talking, of course, about some of the things that are at stake for women if they don't take more of a driver's seat approach to their retirement planning visits and getting involved with their financial planning in general. What we don't want to see is some of the elder abuse that we know runs rampant, and it's especially targeted at women, which is unfortunate, but a lot of this can be avoided, Kirk and Paul.
Yes, please, 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 married couples and women, please hear us. You both, please attend our courses. Women and married couples, both spouses, need to attend these 8-hour courses. Here's some really crazy statistics that we've already shared a number of really powerful numbers with you today, but the one that's probably most powerful to us and is the most scary is that after we know 80% of women will die single and 80% of them will be impoverished, we also know that 2/3 of all financial elder abuse are targeting women, often the surviving spouse of a marriage, the woman being targeted. And I know what many of you are thinking. I hear this more from men all the time, is that our children, we have really smart children. Our children will take care of either mom or dad when the first spouse dies to make sure nothing bad happens. And I'm not here to offend any of you, and there's a lot of reasons for this, but we know that 60% of the financial elder abuse is actually from the children. That's not our data, that's AARP's. We know that 1 in 4 people over the age of 70 are going to be victims of financial elder abuse. 60% of those of that elder abuse will be your children doing it. And it's not necessarily, it could be your child-in-law. Who's responsible for the finances in your children's marriages? Is it your son or your daughter-in-law, or your daughter-in-law or your son? Who is it? Because that's who's likely going to be taking care of mom and dad when they first pass away. So 80% of financial elder abuse is between the children and caregivers. So this is why both spouses need to be, and single women need to be engaged in this education, find the right teams, understand how to prepare themselves for, unfortunately, a 1 in 4 chance of someone trying to perpetrate a financial elder abuse against you. How do we scare them more than that, Paul? I don't know what it's going to take to get them to attend these courses.
Sadly, I think people don't get scared until it happens to them. I think all of you, though, can appreciate that when I'm speaking to the women for a moment, I guess to the men as well. When the man dies, when your spouse dies, or for the men, when you die first, right? Your surviving spouse is vulnerable anyways, right? I mean, emotionally vulnerable and financially vulnerable. And the older you are when this happens, the more vulnerable you will be, right? And we know the more vulnerable you are, the more the easier of a target you will be. And Kirk, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but first of all, I look at mom, and I could tell you, and mom fortunately calls us, but how many times mom will call us and say, someone just asked me this question, and how often she is targeted. Fortunately, we talk to mom a lot, and she hasn't, at least so far, been vulnerable to this, but she is targeted all the time. I think of our family friend, right? A woman whose husband died at a young age, right? And she was vulnerable, a smart woman, educated woman. And what we know what happened to her, she was scammed and lost a lot of money.
Millions,
because her husband took care of everything and she didn't, and she was emotionally vulnerable. So this is not hyperbole. We're not just making this up. It happens all the time. And, knowledge is power. Getting educated will help prevent this.
And we talk about this. In the class, one of the most important parts of our class at the end of the class is we'll teach you how to choose an advisor, how to do background check, how do they get paid, what are the important variables that you want to have as part of your plan and your team. That's not an exaggeration. Literally, it feels like weekly someone is trying to take advantage of mom. Mom's in her late 80s, right? It's sad. We watch it. Like in our private practice, we're responsible for over $2 billion. We take care of a lot of clients, older clients, a lot of them. We're sort of like a family office, a multifamily office for higher net worth families. That's what we do. And we are constantly preventing financial elder abuse from happening. People are targets as they get older, and they are even greater targets when they're older, they're single, and they're women. That is just the fact. And so I hope that you hear us, and I would encourage you to sign up for one of our 8-hour classes. Our classes are taught at major universities and colleges in your area. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
And we'll return after this. You're listening to the Retirement Education Hour. Happy to be back with financial instructors Kirk Cassidy, Dr. Paul Mettler. They're both with the Retirement Education Foundation. We're glad that you're here with us today for this topic that really affects us all. It's about women in retirement. And whether you're a woman listening today or you're married to a woman, maybe you've got a mom, a sister who could really use this information. And it is all about empowering women so that they can have a successful retirement from beginning to end, not just for part of the time, so that their needs are heard, their needs are addressed. And big thanks to Kirk and to Paul, who are walking us through this and uncovering some uncomfortable truths, frankly, about this topic, and most of all, helping to empower those women out there who need it. And I want to make sure that you have all the information to become even more empowered on this topic when you attend the courses that the foundation holds at these major colleges and universities in your community. And we want to see you there. These are courses that are like master's level courses, and they're sponsored and held by the Retirement Education Foundation because, of course, the whole mission there is around education. And you can attend at the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi, Troy campuses, Oakland University, the University of Missouri, Columbia College. You can check out that full list and get registered at retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org, or call 800-240-8981. Whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, and you're listening today, Kirk and Paul, you say there is one answer for many of the risks we've talked about today. What is it?
Well, anyone that listens to the charities radio shows, I have been to our classes. The last segment is always around the solution to everything regarding retirement is planning. And planning, everyone is using this term and throwing it around loosely. I want to take a minute to define and describe what true comprehensive retirement planning looks like and what we are really focusing in the class. Because if you have a mapped out 30-year plan that's mapping everything out, including if one spouse predeceases the other, what should be done, how it should be done, when it should be done, the chances of someone being taken advantage of reduce significantly. The chances of the surviving spouse, women, going to find a new advisor at 80 years old reduces significantly, right? Because they will be empowered, engaged through the entire process. So we teach in the class what a real comprehensive plan looks like, and that is it's going to map out 30 years of income, from which accounts you're taking income to mitigate risks, and you'll learn about our red, yellow, green zones. You're going to learn if the market is up, where we should take our income from. If the market is down, how we should pivot. We call these a pivot account, how we should pivot to another account to take our income from. We show you how those plans have been iterated hundreds of times to mitigate all the possible risks that can be mitigated against. How to maximize the income, where you can take income of 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9% per year without outliving your income. How you can protect the surviving spouse. If one spouse dies at 70, what do I do? If they die at 75, should I disclaim? Where should I take my income from? What should happen with my estate planning documents? If a spouse gets sick, requires long-term care, if they become incapacitated, what are the plans? What should happen? And part of the plan is also incorporating the CPA and the attorney in the process to be sort of like a family office. So we teach you how to find the right teams to build these plans and then implement these plans as you age. So what drives performance is where you take your income from during different market conditions. But to do that, you have to have different accounts set up front. What prevents financial elder abuse? By mapping out, summarizing the plan, and having a team approach that everyone is rowing in the same direction to prevent anything bad from happening as you age. The plan and the team is going to drive your success in retirement. But the key, Paul, to that is that both spouses need to be engaged from the beginning and feel like they have contributed to the design and the creation of that plan and that team. It can't be one person's choice.
Yeah, no, 100%. Megan, I think maybe you had said this in between segments, but, going back to that statistic of 70% of women leave their advisor, the advisor that was with them while they were married, and both were alive. And we talked about, maybe it was you said, that's less likely, I think you said, if when that happens, a document is given to the woman, she gets something that helps explain what to do next.
Sure.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, and I think they're, not acknowledging the fact that women are going to outlive men. That's what the statistics show. So if you're an advisor, I'm thinking to myself, hand the woman an empowerment bundle where she can open that up if her spouse passes, and she knows everything from passwords to accounts to the first thing to do, the second thing to do, who to contact. That is, I think, a really great actionable next thing the advisor could be doing to get the woman involved in the conversation.
I think.
Go ahead, Paul. Go.
No, I was just kidding. And that's why it's so important not only to have a plan, but a plan that makes sense, a plan that's easily understood, not like a beautiful, color printed document that is in language that no one's going to understand, but something that speaks to you, that's easily followed. And that's really, Kirk, what we do in the class, right? That's what we show in the class. So I'll just say, I invite the women listening, go out of your comfort zone a little bit, come get educated. And the men that are listening, let go a little control here and make sure that you are allowing your spouse to participate. Give room for them to as well.
I love that, Paul. So if you'd like to attend one of these 8 hours or like master level courses taught at universities and colleges in your area, or if you want to stream them, if you're out and if there's not a university or college in your area, you can stream it live while we're teaching in the university. All we ask is you make a $29 donation to charity. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. We hope to see all of you there.